Hello and welcome to the last April episode of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. We have the normal COVID-19 type show, news, community bulletin board, little roll-in covering the town hall meeting, some 55 plus news, a lengthy roll-in, an interview, Miriam Gennari interviewing Sue Sheats about the travel industry, and that's pretty much our show. Before we go on, the ritual social media reminder, you can watch us on YouTube on a channel called Arlington Weekly News and the number 1. Also on Facebook, which has additional updates, and on the radio, 96.7 FM WERA in Harlington. Now let's get on with the news. Well, here we go again. On March 9th, 2020, the first COVID-19 case in Arlington was announced. Reports as of Monday, April 13th, indicated that the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington was 390. And as of Sunday evening, April 26th, reports show the confirmed number of cases as being 790. And of course, these figures are still likely to increase because of the restrictions of access to testing. Once again, as long as drive-up testing remains available only to symptomatic patients, the potential for the virus to spread among apparently healthy people will remain. On Thursday, April 23rd, the Arlington County government released the following message headlined, "Arlington supports coordination on reopening." It goes on to say, Arlington strongly supports the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Board of Directors statement encouraging local city and county leaders to develop a coordinated, safe, and scientifically informed strategy to reopening the National Capital Region. The essence of the Board of Directors statement is conveyed in the first and last paragraphs. The first paragraph states, while COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations continue to rise across our region, it is also clear that staying at home and practicing social distancing have been working to reduce the spread of the virus. The best estimates still show that it will take more time before we can return to our daily routines, so we urge everyone to continue following the advice of public health experts and staying home. The last paragraph follows. As we work through this difficult situation, we thank area residents for staying home, avoiding crowds, and practicing social distancing during the past several weeks, and urge everyone to stay committed to these important actions. Your efforts and sacrifices are helping slow the spread of COVID-19 and save lives. And while we ask for you to continue doing your part, know that your leaders in local government are doing everything we can to protect your health and serve you during these challenging times. Now, some may wonder why this statement is being issued a week before the end of April, when Virginia Governor Northam's executive order lasts until at least June 10th. Maryland Governor Hogan's order does not list a projected end date, and District of Columbia Mayor Muriel Bowser's initial executive order was set to expire on April 24th, but has been since extended through May 15th. If a coordinated lifting of the stay-at-home orders is truly intended for the D.C. metropolitan area, it seems logical that the release date from the governors and the mayor should all coincide. As of the date of the director's statement, Virginia had tested less than 1% of its population. Maryland had tested less than 1.4% of its population. And the District of Columbia had tested less than 2.3% of its much smaller population. Anyone who asks how many people in the greater Washington area are actually infected with COVID-19 must surely be disappointed. With such a small sample size, nobody really knows. Now it's time for the first roll-in. This is a summary of the town hall meeting that the Arlington County Board conducted on April 24th, 2020. This is an Arlington Weekly News update for their most recent town hall meeting. Arlington County conducted their weekly town hall at noon on April 24th, 2020. This particular session was especially significant in the wake of a national discussion about reopening the states for business. We are happy to report that Arlington's stance is one of appropriate caution. A recurring theme of the meeting was that, although it's good to do advanced thinking about possible approaches to future relaxing of restrictions on business and individual activities, the greater Washington, D.C. area is nowhere near being ready to actually begin reopening. Participants in the meeting were Christian Dorsey, Libby Garvey, Jim Schwartz, and Dr. Ruben Varghese. The meeting began with the tally of 742 COVID-19 cases in Arlington, with 27 deaths. The reporting of the case numbers was tempered by the acknowledgement that testing was not yet sufficient to reveal all actual infections. A mailer was announced, suitable for posting on a home bulletin board or refrigerator, which contained reminders about how to cope with the pandemic on a personal level. Later, Dr. Varghese made an important distinction between flattening the curve of the spread of COVID-19 and actually getting past the point of danger. A flat curve means only that the rate of new cases is not increasing, and it does not mean that new cases have stopped. When asked about data being available by zip code, it was stressed that the entire region is included in the current outbreak and that the virus is essentially everywhere. There were questions about disinfecting groceries or clothing, and the emphasis was that while these practices would not be discouraged, the critical need was for thorough and repeated washing of hands. In an apparent response to a national item, Dr. Varghese and all of the other attendees specified that bleach and other disinfectants were strictly for use on surfaces and not for either internal or external applications on humans. When asked about antibody testing and a possible application of antibodies towards a vaccine, Dr. Varghese stated that the presence of antibodies did not assure any long-term immunity to COVID-19 and that more research is needed. Overall, the message was that Arlingtonians should remain vigilant, be patient, and try to live by example. The meeting concluded at 1:22 p.m. with added encouragement of patience and personal compliance. This is Hef Munson signing off for Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. Now on to CBB. Tuesday, July 7th, has been set as the date for a special election to replace County Board member Eric Gutschall, who died on April 16th. Gutschall's successor is to serve out the remainder of his term through the end of 2021. The timing of the special election is based on state law. The filing date for replacement candidates is May 8th. Once the candidates are identified, Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News will provide a list of their names. A review of recent crime reports on the Arlington County website for Thursday, April 23rd, shows the following incidents. One burglary in the 1500 block of Clarendon Boulevard, with items stolen from a residential building and no suspect description. One larceny from auto in the 700 block of South Carlin Springs Road. One traffic offense at the intersection of South Kenmore Street and 23rd Street South. And then one more complicated incident. Police were notified of a dispute in the 2000 block of North Cleveland Street, but upon arriving, they determined that no actual crime had occurred related to the dispute. However, one male subject was found to be intoxicated and was placed under arrest. While being escorted to the transport vehicle, the subject reportedly actively resisted and kicked an officer multiple times. Adrian Jones, 33, of Arlington, was charged with drunk in public, but also assault and battery on police, obstruction of justice, and carrying a concealed weapon. He was held on no bond. One of the Arlington County Sheriff's deputies has tested positive for COVID-19. Public health officials have initiated contact tracing of the deputy to determine potential spread to inmates, other police personnel, and members of the public with whom the deputy came into close contact. The ailing deputy is now attempting to manage his illness at home. According to the Sheriff's Office, it is taking a number of steps to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19, including daily temperature checks and symptom screening of staff and inmates, plus everything from daily cleanings to disposable trays for meals. Commonwealth Attorney Parisa Degani-Tafti has encouraged the release of certain nonviolent offenders, arguing that it will reduce the risk of a large COVID-19 outbreak in the prison. For our editorial reaction to this, it is the view of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News that neither the temperature checks nor the release of nonviolent offenders, as described, is sufficient. As we have observed before, asymptomatic individuals have already spread the coronavirus to others, even though they would pass the daily temperature checks and symptom screenings. Similarly, the release of a nonviolent, asymptomatic, but still infected inmate would shift the risk of disease from the detention facility to the public environment, which has even less control. In every case, we would strongly recommend actual testing for the virus, especially before release. On a somewhat lighter note, Arlington Independent Media has decided to extend their spring fund drive with some special programming that they call The Show Must Go On. The special fund drive program that began on April 27th will continue through May 11th. This will include new and encore episodes on WERA 96.7 FM, interviews with local nonprofit leaders, and a new crowd-produced series called In These Times. From May 1st through May 10th, Arlington Independent Media will also hold an online auction. Then, on May 9th, there will be a virtual concert called simply The Show. It will feature area performers playing from their own living rooms and studios, and feature such local luminaries as Kathy DeToro, Jamie Kay, Dan Barry, Kat Janis, The Diane Scream Show, Luke James Schaefer, and more. Tickets are only $5 and will be available through Arlington Independent Media. Now it's time for our 55-plus news. We communicated recently with our regular lead anchor, Craig Nolan. Craig has been mostly sheltering in place at his home near Lee Highway, while his wife goes out in the car to do the necessary shopping, look in on family members, and try to avoid going stir-crazy. Craig has used some of his time to continue with his photography and has shared some photographs of the lilac bush outside his house. For those of you who remember his summer song, It Ain't the Heat, he's contemplating writing another one about the last lilac, which we hope to be able to share with you soon. We had previously wondered about the 6-foot social distancing advice provided by the CDC after being able to smell a woman's perfume from some 15 feet away. A new simulation shows that the droplets from a sneeze or cough may travel significantly farther than 6 feet. Additional measures, like the wearing of gloves and glasses, or sunglasses, or even some other eye protection, might be a good idea. Finally, yes, Virginia, we have prepared a 6th installment of Radio Free Filler, continuing in the spirit of the old USO radio broadcasts. You can find all 6 episodes on YouTube by searching for AWN Radio Free Filler. Since these videos are not monetized, there are no annoying commercial delays or interruptions. And now it's time for an interview with Miriam Gennari and her guest, Sue Sheats. This is a special presentation that Miriam has produced for the first time all by herself.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Sustainable Scoop. On April 20th, U.S. Travel shared the latest economic impact data for tourism economics with the media. A full third of all jobs lost in the U.S. so far have come from the travel industry, and travel spending losses are expected to exceed $500 billion by the end of 2020. The total impact will be 9 times greater than that of September 11th. Joining me today is Sue Sheats. She's a neighbor and she's a few houses over, but she's also an expert in the travel industry, and she is who I go to when I want to find out about regional and world travel issues. So welcome, Sue.
Hi, Miriam.
Sue, can you tell me a little bit about your background so that people better understand where you're coming from before we get into what's happening right now?
Sure. So World Exposures, my company, started a few years ago. I've been in travel for 30 some years, working mostly with tour operators, hotels, cruise lines, destinations, and then with the travel community, the travel advisor community. So I've been doing this for a really long time. World Exposures started because travel was going in an odd, it has to be bigger and bigger and better and better, and over-tourism became a major issue for me. I didn't want to promote over-tourism. I wanted something else. So World Exposures, we promote tour companies and any kind of a company that offers socially responsible travel. And that means folks that live their product really exudes exactly what their belief system is. So it might be animal conservation or planet conservation or conflict resolution. These are people that promote travel, but in a responsible way.
Right, right. How did the U.S. travel industry look prior to Corona? I mean, how are we doing in the U.S. in terms of travel?
2019 was a record year for travel industry in general. In the U.S., it was extraordinary. So 2020, it looked even better. So we were on a rocket trajectory going forward. There was more venture capital money going into travel than we've ever seen before. So this virus really stopped everything in its tracks.
When did the travel industry start to see the effects of the virus?
So many of us were really understanding what was happening in China. We saw what was going on. January, there was enough information for folks in the travel industry. Unfortunately, the leaders in the travel industry didn't move forward with that information right away.
And by move forward, what are you thinking they should have or could have done?
It was concerning. Even into the second week in March, we were watching these industry leaders tell us to book that cruise, and they were going on vacation the next month, and they wanted to join us. So it wasn't the kind of information you would expect from true leaders. Having said that, there were a few really small voices that showed vision and showed industry leadership. They would tell their customers, you might want to wait right now. You might want to hold on before making that booking, because they cared more about their customers' safety and well-being, and in the long run, it's the trust that they'll engender with those customers.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point of being an industry leader, and also somebody who's got not a few years in the field, but many years understanding what it takes to build a client base. 2 stimulus packages later, is the travel industry propped up enough to recover? How are they doing now?
So I just read a survey last night that was disheartening. Some of the larger companies were able to get stimulus money, but over 90% of the smaller travel companies have seen nothing. That's very concerning. And that's not going to be a way that they can survive in the long run. Now, the airlines, in the very beginning, were some of the most egregious. They had some of the most egregious changes to their payments. However, once they found out that Capitol Hill was going to fund them, or they had an opportunity to get some low-cost funding, and they started to loosen their rules and loosen their restrictions, giving you more time to rebook your trip, and then we had to go up on Capitol Hill and make sure that we mandated that they gave people their money back. So we finally did get that.
And when you say we, who are you referring to?
The travel industry, the U.S. Travel Association, the ASTA, the American Society of Travel Agents, all of the different travel entities that are represented by an association, they had to scream and scream loud to make that happen.
So is there a collective voice and resources that are circulating right now for people in that industry?
In the industry, yeah. So U.S. Travel, and they've done a beautiful job. They're mostly gathering data, and then they go up on the Hill and they represent the hotels, restaurants, car, rail, tour operators. There's just so many of us.
So Sue, I see a globe next to you right now, and I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal globe, so to speak, and try to tell us. So what will it take, Sue, for the travel industry to recover?
I've read there has been an awful lot of surveys, talking heads. They have all kinds of different opinions about what's going to happen, how we're going to come out of how we're going to recover, and how the U.S. will recover and how the rest of the world will recover. And what I'm seeing and what I'm reading, it doesn't matter which survey, it's pretty much going to follow the same trajectory. In the U.S. in particular, people are going to look at pricing, and they're going to look at safety. Safety, number one, cleanliness. Do they feel safe wherever they're going to do? Getting on a plane, getting on a ship, on a cruise ship, that I think is going to take a good little bit of time. Then they're looking at price. The price will fuel the recovery. So if they think it's a good value and they feel safe, they will purchase future travel. People aren't going to travel immediately. It will take time. We think it will be a rather slow recovery, even though there's a huge pent-up demand for travel. Because people don't feel necessarily safe yet, they're going to wait and see how that's going to work out.
And this, to me, seems like a wonderful opportunity to spotlight the work that you're doing in sustainable travel and the thoughtful approach that a lot of industries are starting to recognize, spurred on by smaller businesses that have been doing it for some time, creating equity and opportunity in the travel industry. So if you had a message to send out to the people that have been doing it right and are struggling to keep their head above water, or industry leaders that want to reinvent themselves, how can sustainability be part of their future mission moving forward?
We think that the recovery will be, a lot of people will look at smaller properties, and in the interim, it's a good thing, because these smaller, more wonderful boutique properties, you see more, you experience more, particularly when you're in a property where they own. You meet the owners, you meet the folks that own the property, live and work there all the time. They know everybody in the community. That makes a big difference when you're deciding, where do I want to go? Where do I want to bring my family? But the reason I bring that up is folks are going to look at things differently than they used to. For the last several years, it was an Instagram moment. They would fly halfway across the world to get a picture in front of whatever it was, whatever iconic spot that they wanted their picture taken, and then they would dash off to do something else. And they wouldn't spend any time in the moment where they were, really understanding where they were and the people that they were surrounded by. So we really feel like the travel industry will change. And I think travelers will look at travel as an opportunity to express their values. I think that is one of the most positive things about travel, and I've seen a few of the really visionary travel leaders decide, let's go in that direction. This is a moment that they were able to stop, get off the treadmill, and say, what can we do instead of what do we do? What do we do to make more money? What can we do in the travel industry?
Thank you so much, Sue, for your time today, and my blessings to all of your family. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching this edition of the Sustainable Scoop. I hope you're doing well. I hope we entertained you, and I hope you'll come back for more information and news. We're covering Arlington, but we're part of the world. Have a great day, and see you next time. Back to the news desk.
And that's our show. We'll be back next week. Now here's the secret for the video watchers. Once again, we have 2 extra minutes that the radio version doesn't have. So we're going to add a song requested by our very own Mary Fantuccio. This is a song from 1997 called Care.
You could call it beauty or elegant design, a unifying vision that continues down the line with intricate expression told in clear simplicity. You could call it beauty, it's simply how we see. You could call it dedication, the will to see things through, maintaining constant focus on everything we do. And when the work is finished, it's the best that we could give. You could call it dedication, it's how we choose to live. And as we work together, we're transforming in a way into a greater entity that lives through us each day. And you could call it quality, a fleeting, fragile dream, but it's not so elusive as the thought at first may seem. For every day we seek it, and we find it everywhere. You could call it